All right, the Eagles are back for week 2 of OTAs, and we got a few guys flying under the radar. Although with uncertain updates around Nakobe and Jihaad Campbell, it sounds like they won't be unknowns for long. So let's talk about the massive opportunity in front of them, plus hear why Vic Fangio is so set on Cooper DeJean playing potentially 3 positions. Also, a few other guys made it back to practice, and despite how you feel about the edge position, the DC made it clear about the next guys to step up and whether or not Philly needs another addition. So let's get into that and everything else around the birds, but first, let's run it. What's up, guys? So the Eagles were back in action at OTAs, and we got a lot to unpack there. But before we get to that, I did want to mention the official update on the Bryce Huff trade, since we finally got all the details regarding compensation and return. Thanks to Jonathan Jones revealing that the mid-round pick we'd all been hearing about is a 2026 conditional 5th that can turn into a 4th if Huff meets production and playing time conditions. Of course, before any of that can happen, this entire trade hinged on Agent Zero passing his physical. And judging by the comments on social media, I don't think Philly fans have ever cheered for that Bryce harder.
Don't fail me.
Honestly, I figured we were fine anyway, since this dude couldn't wait to get out of Philly to begin with. And thankfully, we can all take a sigh of relief because Zero did pass the physical. Although I have seen some comments saying, oh, just wait until he gets to San Francisco, he's going to play better, this was a mistake, but so what? If he plays better, who cares? If he is, then ultimately it's a better pick for Philly. Plus, most everyone could see it, but he wasn't in the future plans for Howie Roseman. Or at the very least, definitely not Vic Fangio. It's like Brandon Graham said when asked about Huff. Playing in a system like he did with the Jets allowed him to focus on one thing and go get the quarterback. But playing with Fangio in a different system was obviously completely different. So now we move on with guys like Nolan Smith, Azeez Ojulari, and Jalyx Hunt. Who, by the way, BG said just wait for year 2 of the Hunter because the sky is the limit with that dude's potential. Although when it comes to the leadership piece, there's one guy who 55 expects to really step up.
Nolan, for sure, he got the torch right now. I mean, that room changed drastically real fast with now he's the guy. Sweaty gone, myself, Milt left. I mean, all the guys, everything, all signs pointing is Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis in the tackle room. And then you got Nolan Smith, who got to take a big leap. He already did in the plan wise. Now he got to make sure that they vocally you address stuff that need to be addressed, because we got to make sure we practice in a certain way, making sure it's looking a certain way. But it's gonna be our way, the way we do it. But we got to maximize how people plan, what people can do, and make sure that we always getting the best out of them. Because they believe in what you're doing. So he got to be able to lead by example and what he do on that field. And then they going to want to hear him a little more this year, especially because he won one and he was in it last year. And he took that next step. Now he got to take that next step of leadership, and I think he will.
Let's go. Am I surprised? No, I'm not. Because that's my guy right there, and Nolan's not going to have any trouble being vocal. And tell you what, if this video can get 4,000 likes, then I'm going to give away this signed Nolan Smith jersey, which, you see we got it signed back when we went to the Novacare Complex last week. But I'm going to give it away to 1 lucky subscriber. So hit the like button, make sure to sub. Of course, while you're dropping a like on this video, I got another way you can support my guy as well and get to meet him. And that's thanks to Nolan's 5th annual Pups Day Out youth football camp in Savannah, Georgia, where the Super Bowl champ himself will be there to provide his expertise to guide young athletes with hands-on football training and skill-building activities, while also taking photos and giving some memorabilia to individuals who get a sponsorship package. Which, in case you're wondering, the sponsorship packages start out at $1,000, with each tier getting more access and event opportunities. However, the best part is that all your donations go to Nolan Smith's Foundations, which provides back-to-school backpacks for all the camp members as well as supplies. By the way, even if you can't afford a sponsorship package, the group is taking donations and any amount helps. So if you want to show some love to a Philly dog, all you got to do is click the link in the description or check out the link in the comments. It is July 13th for those wondering on the date, but it's an incredible cause. I will certainly be donating. You can too.
Testament to Brandon Graham. And you about to make me cry up here just because BG gave me so much from just the outside world putting so much pressure on me. You're a first-round pick. You need to do this. You need to do that. And BG just told me, be you. And to this point, that's what I got on my mirror and my goals, be you. Like, nobody can make you be anything other than yourself. And long as you work and put in that dedication and that effort every day, and that's why I work so hard, just because I just want to be me. And it's not for me. It's for B. It's for B when, he was doubted when he first got here, and so was I. And he just kept pushing me, and he leaned into me. As we say in the South, he just poured in my glass just a little bit more. He just kept pouring in my glass, and he believed in me. And I tell him, I'm not going to stop. My first sack dance, I already got it in my head.
Look, I've been saying it since day one, but the leadership piece from Nolan was pretty natural for him. Granted, there's other areas that are going to have to step up as well. And even though Zack Baun was already trending in that direction, he's another name that's ready to assume a larger role.
I feel like that's something I've wanted to do myself, and not just because BG's leaving or other guys are leaving, but because I want to grow it as myself, as a leader and as a guy on this team that can have a voice and be impactful to the guys on this defense and this team.
I'd say he's got a lot of clout coming off of an all-pro season and then signing the large contract during the offseason. Like, sure, losing 3 to 4 starters on defense is difficult enough, but those were also some of the more dominant voices in the locker room, with 2 of them being captains. But again, this isn't one of the areas that I'm concerned about because we got the right guys in the building.
So I'm really excited for the pieces we have. Very excited for the guys that left as well. I'm very happy for them. But I'm excited for this new look of a team and a new look of a defense, especially in the pieces we have.
By the way, in case you weren't paying attention or missed it earlier in the week, BG's retirement was officially processed, which means the Eagles now have another open roster spot. Now, my personal opinion is that there's no major blockbuster in the works, although according to Eagles beat writer Zack Baun, he doesn't believe Howie Roseman's done yet, saying just taking a look at the writing on the wall of the edge position and seeing some of the potential ring-chasing veterans available has him thinking they're not complete, with Zach listing out pass rushers Adoree Smith and Von Miller as realistic options to consider. Of course, Anthony DeMona and I talked about Smith in a recent video, so I won't deep dive there, but I do think that one makes a lot of sense. And then as for Miller, speaking from strictly a production standpoint, I wouldn't be opposed to adding a veteran who can help teach the young guys. Heck, Nolan Smith has regularly attended his pass rush summit, so there's already a relationship there. Plus, in a rotational role, he'd likely be able to stay productive in limited snaps. It's just that in terms of off-the-field stuff, I don't know if that'd be too much for Philly to consider bringing a guy like him in. Anyway, I did find it interesting that Berman also threw out the idea of a high-profile trade for Travon Walker. Granted, there wasn't much more info as to why that dream scenario was mentioned, but if you know anything about Zack Baun, he's covered the Eagles for forever, incredible beat writer. He doesn't really just throw things out there to hope that they stick. But with that being said, what do you guys think? Do we need another edge, or do you like where we're at?
I feel good about Nolan. I think we'll feel good about Jalyx, now that he's going to get a lot of reps and develop. He played good for us down the stretch last year and played a lot, as you saw. So I feel good about those 2 guys, and I think they'll continue to improve. We've got Uche, we've got Aziz, we've got 3 other guys there. I think we'll be fine.
It had been a minute since we gotten a Vic Fangio presser, and I just got to say, it's pretty refreshing to hear from the godfather of the defense because he just tells it like it is. Well, at least mostly.
Oh, that was a salary cap type thing, and how he made that decision. I was fine with it.
Sorry, I know this is the same song and dance that the Eagles keep saying about CJ. But come on, just look at the cap room they have now and the fact that they were trying to sign Justin Reed right after trading away CJ, and we're all smart enough to believe that it wasn't just a cap relief thing. Heck, if Fangio was perfectly fine with that move, then it says more than enough. I don't know, I'm sticking to it being something else based on what I was told, but I can appreciate Fangio, for the most part, tells it like it is. Just like sharing that rookie Jihaad Campbell is starting his work at inside linebacker. However, it likely won't be until sometime in August before Campbell's able to hit the practice field.
I don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
Yeah, not my favorite thing to hear about a rookie who needs to get in some reps. Yet at the same time, even though it wasn't exactly the same, Cooper DeJean dealt with a hamstring injury that slowed his progression, and he ultimately ended up being fine. I mean, he turned into one of the best nickels in the entire league in his rookie year, and is already very clearly being viewed as a Swiss Army knife superstar.
I would like to keep him at nickel, and then in our base package, we'll find a spot for him, either at corner or safety.
What's the benefit of someone who can play inside at nickel and outside in base? Because you'd have to find, someone at corner at the nickel size with like 80% of snaps.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will end up depending upon how the rest of the guys develop and where do we most need them. So it will be determined by what's best for him and what's best for the team. And it'll probably, what's best for the team will win out in that decision. But he's capable of playing corner and he's capable of playing safety.
I mean, Coop is just insane. We're starting year 2, and you have a guy who could legitimately play corner, nickel, and safety, and that's not to mention him playing punt returner last season. Also, for those questioning how much Coop might play on the outside if he rotated while the Eagles were in base defense, think about this. Philly played base about 160 plays out of 21 games last season. So if you're doing the math, 7 to 8 plays at most per game isn't really that big of a concern to me. But anyway, getting back to Campbell, you're right, who's to say if the Rook can turn into the type of player DeJean is? But personally, I'm not too worried even if he has to miss a bit more time because I'd rather him being 100% than to force him back there too quickly. Which is honestly the same thing for Nakobe Dean. Even though he told us last week during our visit to the Novacare Complex that he was feeling good and planning to be back on the field in 1.5 months. Except Fangio noted in his presser that Nakobe is still a long ways out, so the pup list sounds like the more realistic option to be in training camp. Let's face it, at this point, you got an opportunity for some guys to step up and really take advantage of some extra reps. Like Jeremiah Trotter Jr., for instance. Because it's sounding very likely that Trott is the day one starter with the way Nakobe and Jihaad Campbell are progressing. Although let's not forget about rookie Smael Mondon, who Johnny Page believes has the traits to develop into more than a backup. Thanks to his insane range and speed to run sideline to sideline, and the athleticism to play in space. Heck, just take a look at the tape on this dude. He can blitz, handle man coverage, drop into zone, and has that dog in him. Now obviously there's some size concerns from critics and he's going to have to learn the playbook, but at the very least he's going to be a solid special teams contributor. Again, we're a long ways out, but Philly has a ton of belief in Trotter also, so I'm not really looking to add anyone at that position.
I think getting in a routine. I think being routine as far as game week, and then going into practice and just my daily routine as far as in the weight room, pre-practice stuff, getting here early in the morning. I think just being consistent with that really helps me be consistent when I'm out there on the field. I really believe that it all translates if you're consistent in like all areas of your life, and it's going to translate to your play on the field.
It's always good to get a glimpse of the birds in action and see where the squad's at, with Tuesday being the second to last voluntary OTA date ahead of June 5th. The good news was that former linebacker Ben Van Sumeren was present with his helmet and is now wearing number 43 due to him switching to a full-time fullback. And then one of the other guys that we hadn't seen last week was Adoree Williams, with Brandon Lee Gowton noting Williams was present although not practicing, so perhaps dealing with an injury. But he is officially listed at wide receiver on the Eagles roster sheet. Look, I know there's 90 guys trying to make 53 spots, but just the fact that Williams is back there, he's listed as a wide receiver, not return specialist anymore, I think is at least significant. By the way, Anthony DeBona did a really good breakdown of what all Williams can add to this offense in a previous article, so I've got a link in the description if you want to go check it out. Of course, there's a lot of other unknowns and guys trying to earn a spot, like the safety battle between Sidney Brown and Andrew Mukuba. Although just because Sid has been here for a couple seasons, it doesn't sound like he's got the leg up.
Well, his experience came in 23, not 24. Last year at this time, he wasn't doing anything and didn't do anything really till the middle of October. So he lost all the, this time of year, training camp, early part of the season, and really never got many reps with us defensively. He did play in the last game against the Giants and did fine. But, it's a new system from what he had in 23. So, yes, he's sitting in meetings, but that only goes so far. You got to get out there and experience it and build on it. And he lost that last year. So that he's going through that process now, and he's doing fine. It's a competition that, it's going to take a training camp, a few preseason games to sort out. And Tristan's in that too.
Notice that Tristin McCollum mentioned at the very end there. Now, I'm not saying that Tristin McCollum is the next Zack Baun, but I think that we've learned enough from Fangio's pressers that when he offers a player up unsolicited, that it's certainly worthwhile. Just saying, I'd keep my eye out for Tristin to make the roster now at the very least. The other guy that I'm extremely hyped for is Jordan Davis, with Fangio admitting it took most of the season last year before JD was in good enough shape to significantly make an impact. But now that we're starting OTAs, the DC said he's in as good of shape as he's seen him and expects the pass rush development to carry over. And let's just say he's definitely giving right guard Tyler Steen the work, who FYI started out as the guy next to Lane Johnson in O-line drills. Also, for the record and attendance-wise, the only Eagles not at practice Tuesday were Devontae Smith, Johnny Wilson, E.J. Jenkins, and Elijah Cooks. Reminder again, these are voluntary, and the only mandatory one is on June 10th. Still, though, it's a great opportunity for guys to prove themselves, and Sidney Brown got a chance very early, with Zach Berman sharing he was the first safety up in 7-on-7 drills next to Reed Blankenship. Granted, it didn't take long before rookie Drew Mukuba also got looked with the first team as well. However, not only did Cooper DeJean start out on the outside with Quinyon Mitchell, but when they moved to second-team drills, Fangio elected to keep Coop on the outside and have Perry Nickerson move into the slot, followed by Andre Sam eventually moving to the safety spot as well.
What is going on?
Who knows? It's OTAs, it's incredibly early, the media only gets very limited access, so maybe it's some trickery or it's possibly just Fangio throwing as many guys as possible in different combinations and seeing how it works. Plus, that was 7-on-7s because once they moved to 11-on-11 drills, it became Sidney Brown and Reed Blankenship at safety, along with Quinyon Mitchell and Kelee Ringo on the outside, and then Cooper DeJean at the nickel spot.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Look, it's nice to see Ringo get some reps in there because previously it was Adoree Jackson getting those reps first. Yet this by no means is a shoe-in that Keelee's got the job, especially with Fangio saying he's got to get those reps in to prove he can be a consistent starting corner. However, he's definitely turning heads and making progress in that area.
He is a freak of nature. Just his tangibles, being that tall, being able to have speed, his movement. I just really learned that he's from the West Coast this whole time. I thought he was actually a Georgia boy. So that's one of the coolest things, and he's my locker mate. So to be able to talk to him, he's a funny dude. Good people.
I would definitely say the game's slowing down a lot more, for sure. Just technique-wise, focusing on the little things. Of course, as man over here was talking about my talent, everything like that, man. But just understand the playbook, understand what offenses are trying to do to you, in the scheme and everything like that. And when everything slows down for you, you're able to play a lot faster, and I'm kind of tapping into that, and it feels really good. I feel like the sky's the limit for me, man. I feel like whatever I put my mind to, it's not going to be able to do.
For those counting, it does look like guard Matt Pryor is the front runner when it comes to the backup swing guard position. Since, like Anthony pointed out, last week when Landon Dickerson was out, Pryor got reps at left guard. But now with Dickerson back, Pryor moved over to backup right guard. Anyway, I can't forget to mention the play of the day with Jalen Hurts hitting Dallas Goedert on a deep ball with Baun in coverage. As Jeff Kerr shared that Baun was actually in a near-perfect position, it's just that the ball was a straight dime, allowing Goedert to reel in the pass for a 30 to 40-yard gain. Also, I don't know if you care about these things, but ESP did record the throws today with Hurts going 15 for 17. Granted, QB1 didn't have AJ or Smitty to throw to, even though AJ was there, yet it's still evident to see just how sharp Jalen has been through the first couple weeks of OTAs, because all it's doing is making the defense better going up against this offense. But you guys let me know, what are your biggest takeaways from the first open practice of week 2? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. This has been the Philly Special.